Let's talk about the Mizuno Wave Rebellion. So it's a $180 shoe that's coming out in September in the US. It has a 36 millimeter heel, 28 millimeter forefoot. So we're in super cushion, super stack territory here with that 38, with the IAAF limit being 40. Its midsole is a PEBA type foam, or expanded beads in this case, similar to Saucony's PowerRun PB, but it is castor bean based, so it's a more sustainable form. It has a wave plate, of course, being a Mizuno, and I'm going to show you an exploded view of the shoe, but it's different on the medial side than the lateral side. It has an unusual outsole, which is it's resin injected into a kind of matrix, and I'll show you that here. They sent us an example. You can see it's not exactly lugs injected through. It's sort of all of one piece. Here it's all flexible, but I think once we put the shoe together with all the glue, it becomes yet more rigid. So the upper is kind of a simple mesh, not particularly light, kind of standard, if you will, for a up-tempo performance shoe. We have a full gusseted tongue. You can see the orange that extends all the way into the toe box. So the toe box is fully lined. I think that may be overdoing it a bit. The tongue is quite high, as you can see, and a bit awkward. So in our multi-tester written review, which we have linked here, and I'm going to give you everybody's pros and cons, a lot of us felt this was really kind of overdone. It kind of folds awkwardly. It's okay once you get it going. So I'm going to show you now an exploded view of the shoe. Here is your outsole, which is kind of all one unit on this matrix. Then if we're looking from the bottom here, there is a first layer of PEBA. The shoe has a really quite soft and forgiving heel. We all thought it was a good shoe for heel strikers, maybe a bit less suitable for forefoot strikers, and I'll get into that in a sec. Next, we have the wave plate, and you can see how broad it is at the heel. So it's broad at the heel. It rises at the arch. Notice the rising part, and then up front it gets more flexible. So this is a very, very stable shoe. So a lot of folks will say right off the bat, how does it compare to the plastic plated PEBA, similar kind of PEBA midsole of Saucony's Endorphin Speed? Well, here's our speed. The speed weighs considerably less. Actually, we weigh here 9.15 ounces, 259 grams in a US 9, whereas our speed weighs 7.8 ounces. The speed upper isn't lined in the front. That's one difference. The upper's kind of similar. The plate in the speed, I think, is not as extensive, but I think the real difference between these two is underfoot. And what we see here, I did some measurements, that our Wave Rebellion is 9 millimeters wider at the heel than the Endorphin Speed. It's 6 millimeters wider at the forefoot, even though it doesn't really look it, and 5 millimeters wider at the forefoot. So this is a broader, more stable kind of shoe than our Endorphin Speed. It's also a very rigid shoe. It's totally rigid longitudinally, totally rigid, or almost totally rigid, if you torsionally, whereas our Speed has more give, even though it has a plate. So this is a rigid profile kind of rockered shoe. Let me give you some of the comments from our testers, the pros. I said smooth and well cushioned with PBA spring and a soft heel, max cushion grade full stack, that big stack, broad platform. Zach, Renee, and Cheng and myself say the wave plate and platform width stabilizes the rear just enough while providing milder propulsion at the front. I saw it as a nice compromise between a up-tempo and daily training class shoe. That soft heel is stable to heel striking at slower paces with the propulsive, firmer front. We all thought the bio-based materials were a real nice nice pro. Yost in Africa thought the really liked the outsole. We all thought the outsole gripped like heck, and these hard plastic nubs, while they contribute to the firmness, should make this shoe last a real long time. Now, a few of the cons. Well, of course, we all thought the tongue was overdone. We had comments about the weight at 9.1 ounces. Some of that you can explain with the width, but still 9.1 ounces, 259 grams is quite heavy for a shoe you might consider up-tempo and potentially even racing in. We all had some issues with the heel hold here. And the fit. We were all sent our true to size. Mizuno told us these early samples came out a bit short. We noted some kind of over the toe pressure and the shortness. They'll correct that for production. They say they've already determined it's corrected. However, at the heel, despite this really massive heel counter, we thought the heel hold wasn't great, and I also did too. You're well held up here, but down low, I think it's kind of broad, maybe too rigid even. So you just don't have quite the heel hold you'd like. And then finally, it's a super noisy shoe on the road and kind of firm in the forefoot. Our forefoot strikers, midfoot forefoot strikers, found it got a bit too firm for them, despite that big stack. You know, we have 28 millimeters at the forefoot, so some combination of this outsole, which is noisy and very firm, maybe the plate had it feeling firm. I didn't find it overly firm. I just found it kind of rigid up front and noisy. So it's sort of a bottom loaded shoe in the sense that you even though the plate isn't right above the outsole, you do have that very firm outsole. So it's sort of that firm kind of feel right at the road you have in a shoe, for example, like the Meta Racer from Asics with the carbon plate. So it's that kind of feeling, almost like you're wearing a highly cushioned kind of track spike kind of feel. So I took them out on the road here in New Hampshire. I've took them out in Utah as well. Going to give you a few of those impressions. But overall, this is a very interesting new initiative from Mizuno with a PEBA midsole. Their Mizuno Energy Light expanded beads, which is bio-based, which is a great thing. An unusual outsole that I think could be maybe more decoupled, maybe softened a bit, but you should get tons of durability. Decent upper that could use a bit of work on the heel hold and maybe be lightened. It's fully lined, whereas we said our endorphin speed isn't, and you still get good hold. So that could maybe help the weight. They do come to market in September. So if you're looking for a highly cushioned heel, softer heel, if you're a heel striker like I am, and a rigid rocker profile, potential lots of durability, lots of cushion, but with a kind of firmer forefoot feel, kind of a snappy, firmer forefoot, it's a great new option. So now I'm going to take you out for my personal impressions from the roads of New Hampshire on the seacoast. So stay tuned. So let's talk about the fit of our Wave Rebellion. So this pair is at my quote true to size and is a bit short and a bit low over the toes. Mizuno told us production pairs will be adjusted. Still, with these thin odd low socks, I'm pretty good. No real objections. It's not a super voluminous fit. It's near a performance fit or close. There's many comments in our written review about the tongue. We all think it's kind of overdone. Seems to work semi-okay, rotates a bit. Now, the one issue I'm seeing is the heel counter, and I think several of our testers in the written review have said the same. A bit loose, not a great lockdown. I think it's a bit broad down low and a bit low, but it's still pretty much okay. So now let's talk about the ride. So we have a softer heel here, not super soft, softer heel and fairly firm forefoot. The forefoot, I think, is really influenced by the, not so much that there isn't lots of cushion, but by the outsole, which is kind of firm lugs. They grip like heck. I'm going to say this is a ride that's sort of bridges training and up tempo. The firm plate, if you will, or firm forefoot gives you a propulsive effect, but it's not, say, as extreme as the speed roll in the Saucony Endorphin Speed, but it's more rigid. Certainly can train in them. For example, compared to Endorphin Speed, despite the issues of the heel counter, which are fixed in version 2, this is pretty darn stable heel with the wave plate and the geometry. You'll hear a lot of racket off the road. Those lugs are kind of a firm plastic, yet the heel is quite soft here.